For those of y'all who do not know me, my name is Bill Harvey. I am not from here. I was born and raised in Virginia, spent all of my life in Georgia. I do not talk funny. I do not have an accent. Y'all do. You will be understanding to know that if you ever get to heaven, God sounds like me. But we're going to try to have a little bit of fun this afternoon, real quick. For those of y'all who don't know me, I'm also stationed at Ephrata. I'm the chief of police with Ephrata. I'm also with the South Central Task Force and on the incident management team. I have been working with George now for the past 15, 16 years, whatever, but we try to get it done. I'm going to move through this. You've already had your legal disclaimers. Crime prevention. Crime prevention in churches. This is all so overlooked. But why? We know that churches, by their very nature, have a unique vulnerability. You're open to the public. You have open doors. Varied hours. You advertise your hours. But look at your service population. You have child care, youth groups, seniors. You have some fringe elements. And we will discuss those in depth later. You see, security is an afterthought for churches, but also too, crime prevention is even further. When I was the director of crime prevention in Savannah, Georgia, and we would reach out to our churches, and they're like, oh no, this is not a problem. It will be. It is. Why target a church? I want you to change. Now, we've got a bunch of nice Christian folks here, so I want you to change your mode for a second. Quit thinking as the usher or the minister or whatever, but I want you to think as a Billy the bad guy. Why target a church? Think as a burglar. Number one is a total lack of security consciousness. What do? We leave stuff out for people to take home free. You know, need something, donate it. Pick it up free, whatever. We have all kind of banks and clothing banks and food banks. You are what we call in the security industry a soft target. The doors are open. Very, very lax security. It's a place of peace, no resistance. Where would you go to start a fight? Not in a church, because most church people are good Christian folks, and they are what? Passive. You would not think there was going to be a fight there. So if I'm a burglar and I want to encounter someone, this is a good place. But also, too, your recent converts can be problematic. Any ministers in here? Okay. I'm going to play Reverend Bill for a minute. I have just converted George. Now, George has had a tawdry life. Drinking, smoking, gambling, running around with women folks, all this mess. He has just been a mess. But I done told him, if you come to the Church of Bill, the Flaming Sword of Joshua Evangelical Church, I am going to save you. And he's been doing good for a couple of weeks. However, he hadn't got a job yet. He's still not doing too well. He hadn't drank, he hadn't smoked. Reverend, I got a problem. What? I'm going to have to kill you because you just ruined my life. And you're going to see some data later on of where recent converts and some attacks against the ministers have occurred. The world for ministers has changed. I was talking to my blue-haired sainted Irish mother the other day, and when I was talking to her, she goes, you know, the preacher don't come by and visit no more. I said, well, no, they don't. I said, because, you know, why? We don't want the widow to be seen by the new preacher. Ooh. A lot of the major churches now are telling their ministerial staff when they go visit to actually have an escort with them just to take away the impropriety or the implication of improprieties. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, there wasn't nothing for the minister to come by. Because I'd see my mother, my blue-haired sainted Irish mother, she would look out the window, she goes, oh darn, here comes the preacher, and I ain't got nothing good to feed him. And you know he shows up hungry. He never shows up here to visit. So, you know, this is what we do. Our life has changed dramatically. Also, too, in some of the problematic areas, how many of you, you don't have to raise your hands, you got Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, there's some other things and some other drug outreaches where you have people there who may fall off the wagon. Or you may have people who are there, you know, because of, you know, past criminal past. And, you know, a lot of churches open up their doors to these people. This can be a problem. Also, too, Churches have what? Insurance. Let's say you have a slip and fall. I'm going to sue you because you did not remove the ice off the sidewalk. Churches have money. But also, too, who would steal from God? I'm from Georgia. It's God. It's not God. God. Okay? Work with me, people. We have special risk we got to talk about. When we look at this traditionally and we look at it historically within law enforcement, we always bring up the rural African American churches that have been targets, Jewish synagogues, mosques, the scapegoat mentality, Charleston and also in Texas, scapegoat mentality. Sometimes you might see an arsonist as a symbol of hate. But the problem of it is we've always thought of these traditionally as a target. The thing of it is, each and every church here can be a target. You see, people look at me and they say, oh, this will never happen here. Never. I remind them of nickel mines. Everybody in central Pennsylvania has the date that nickel mines occurred as a kind of a Pearl Harbor for we lost our innocence. This is our mark. So when somebody says, you went to this training today, nothing ever happened here, just remind them of what? Nickel mines, 6 October 06. Everybody remembers when they heard it on the radio, what they were doing. Don't forget that. So we're all at risk. What are your current risks in your church? Well, one, you have physical assets. You have a lot of physical assets. And hopefully they're documented and insured. We have a lot of financial resources. And we're going to talk about finance crimes too. But also too, the other thread is you have iconic representation for hate. There's some, let's just go ahead and say it, there are some religions in this country where some people do not have an affinity towards. You know, when I grew up in the small South years ago, the only thing I knew, we had to get out of church to beat the Baptists to the restaurant. But the thing of it is, but the thing of it is, what we have to do is this. We also must understand there's some people that don't like some denominations here, be that as it may. Fraud, misrepresentation of needs. Every minister in here has heard the story before. Oh, I'm broke. I'm traveling through town, have them knocking on the door. I've seen some churches, some heads going up and down. How many people have had their church built, flim-flammed, or whatever you want to call it, by travelers? It happens. Usually most of the churches on the larger highways or exit ramps, they know it, and they'll call us up. Chief, what? They're here again. So we gave them some food, but it could at least brought the pot back. They didn't. It was a new crock pot. I got it at Walmart. So, reliance of volunteers, huge threat. What's wrong with volunteers? Untrained. Untrained. We're dealing with that today. You see, one of the things we do, and when we look at a house of worship, all of us are short of all of the, support, manpower, people power that we need, right? So what do we do when somebody says, I want to do something? Two things happen. One, how many of you are wearing more than one hat? But when you have a situation, we need 3 of you, not 1 of you, because we got 3 hats on one head. The other problem of it is we have people who are untrained, or who have not, been trained in proper methodologies or working with the policies and procedures that we want them to work with. Where are your risks? Daycare, gym, scouting, volunteers. We all know about mandated reporting with the Sandusky laws and the impacts of that. But this can be a huge problem. This is something we have to look at for the security of our youth and the security that goes built around those type of events. What are your other risks? You have presence of non-members. What happens? Weddings, funerals, whatever. And you have people who are non-members that are showing up. Also, too, you may have presence of non-believers. Once again, open doors. We have outreaches to invite all kinds of people: homeless, food banks, drug users, substance abusers, gangsters, assorted sinners, and heathens. They all come to your church. And if you remember the training you had earlier this morning about observation and looking, all of this stuff should blend now. All of it kind of blends together. But when we open our doors to literally everybody, we don't know where the threats are at. That's the reason you have observation training. What are your criminal risks? The most frequent crime there is to churches is burglary. I don't want to see a show of hands, but I'm seeing heads nodding up and down. People know that the church is unattended, it may not be locked, and whatever, and all of a sudden stuff is missing. That's a technical term, stuff, because that's what they always tell us, because nobody's done an actual inventory. We're missing stuff, we don't know how much. Robbery, what is your bank deposit policy? We had a church when I was in Savannah, Georgia, where they had the same bank deposit every time post-church. Luckily, one of their parishioners was a Savannah police officer who was following them to the deposit and interrupted the robbery as they were getting ready to make the night deposit. We're going to talk about money handling. Theft and entering autos. Huge, huge. Why? Right now, we know everybody's in service, nobody's in the parking lot. So if I'm going to be Billy the burglar, I'm going to get into the cars. Well, I'm not going to lock my car. I'm at church. Nobody would steal from me at church, right? You know, the thing of it is, people have stuff taken out of the car. I'm going to jump off ship here just a little bit. We do a review of all of our entering autos where I work. And unequivocally, it's like 100% are left unlocked, or the windows are down. Unequivocally, everything is visible. Everything from cups for change, you know, to throw into the booth when you go into the turnpike, backpacks. Some people, a lot of ladies, what they do, rather than taking the big old purse, they'll just take their little clutch purse and they leave that when they go into Walmart. It's God's grocery store, people. If he didn't want you to have it, it wouldn't be in Walmart. It's a southern thing. Work with me. Anyway, the thing of it is, and they leave it there for the taking. You're just putting this right out. And people look at me and say, well, what can I do about people breaking in my car? There's a new miracle product from $19.95 plus shipping and handling. It's called a trunk. Put it in the trunk of your car and lock it. Please, people. I mean, but look at what's going on. One of the things that I talk to when I do training at individual churches is the ushers. Do you do a 360 of the church grounds while things are going on? Two things. One, is anybody looking in cars? Two, in case Miss Emma slipped and fell, and she's laying there between the two cars. Could you take the publicity to know one of your parishioners laid in the parking lot for an hour or a half? No. So you get somebody go out and do a 360. Embezzlement. Oh, Lord, did I say that? You do not know the amount of churches, other organizations we have of internal thefts. Do your checks and balances. I'm going to talk about that. Pardon me. I hear people say, well, nobody thought Miss Emma would steal. Well, she's at the casino 3 nights a week. She's got to get money from somewhere. You know, think of and look at your people who are handling money. I'm going to talk about it in detail. Vandalism, hate crimes. These are very much still popular. You still have people who want to deface churches, deface a creche, things of this nature. We have to be very cognizant of that. Assaults are up in churches with recovery workshops and domestic violence. We have seen cases on that, and I'm going to give you some data to look at. Deadly force incidents. There's a study, you can look this up, by Chinn of deadly force incidents in houses of worship. It's pretty definitive. 21% of them associated towards the ministry, 91% of the assailants are male. 453 resulted in deaths, abductions, attacks, suicides, suspicious deaths, deadly force interventions, and protections. Yes, I have investigated some of these. And this is some of the data. It's a real good read if you want to take a look and see where it's coming from. George, do I have a pointer on? Oh, yeah, good. But if you look at some of this up here, you can see mental illness is 11%. And we all know that. Gang-related, 8% is usually urban areas. Religious bias, 5%. Drug-related, I think that's going to go up. But domestic violence and personal conflict and robbery, 55%. So this is where your threats are coming from. Have I woke you up yet? Here's a reality orientation statement. 44% of houses of worship for 200 or more do not have a security plan. And I think that may be going down, I hope, now through the years. But that's reality statement. Look to the left, look to the right. One of you don't have a plan. One of you does. It's very simple math. We're going to try to correct that and get everybody on board. You see, here's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a new normal in this country. The new normal is to prepare for the possibility and train for the probability. Now, here's my big question. I want to see a show of hands. When was the last time you and your family practiced a fire drill at the house? Raise your hand. I think I got 2 or 3. Why are you here trying to learn high-speed, low-drag stuff and you haven't done the basics? And that's what I'm talking about. You know, you have got to protect your own family first before you protect others. So tonight, you have a homework assignment. Tonight, go home and have a conversation about having a fire exit plan and practice it. I'm serious. This is basic. You're trying to do high-speed stuff. Let's get to the basics first. Second thing, when was the last time you had a discussion of what to do while at wherever? You know, they say 1 out of every 3 people in the neighborhood is crazy. If it's not you or George, if it's not me or George, it might be you. Have you ever had a discussion with your family that says, what will we do if our crazy neighbors break loose one night? They start acting up. Do we tell the children to get in? Or we just let them play and watch this thing, cascade in front of us? You say, I'm going to tell you a secret. Ladies, I'm a guy. I'm going to tell you how guys act. Guys do not ever talk to you about this, except right before Christmas shopping, King of Prussia. Honey, if you get lost, don't you be shopping. You call me right away because I don't want to be carrying too many packages and spending all this money. That's the only time men folks will tell you about making some pre-plans. When you go to a place, do you look for the fire exits? If the fire exits are blocked, you want to see me go crazy? Block a fire exit, chain a fire exit. I'm calling everybody. But what happens? Some of you here with your wife today, and you've been always planning on going to some maybe nice restaurant. As soon as you go in this nice restaurant, you sit next to some couple who's having a domestic dispute. Well, let's just sit here. We've been wanting to go here. This ought to be extra entertainment. No. Do you stop and think about the possibilities? I always tell everybody, vigilance is the key, not paranoia. We should be that way in our life. We should apply it to our church. We should apply it also in our vocation. And we should also make sure our children and families know this, what to do while if. By the way, on your church security plans, let's just do a quick show of hands. What's the most flood-prone state in the United States? Pennsylvania. If you look at all the creeks and arteries and little dams and the flooding we have in the Susquehanna, we're the most flood-prone state in the United States, lowland flooding. For those in Lancaster County, Greg, where are you at? Wake up. All right, Greg. Gotta wake him up. Lancaster County averages 1 tornadic event every year. Every year. And you're saying, really? I didn't think about it. I thought tornadoes are out west. No, they're here. Do you have an all hazards approach to your security? Do you have a severe weather plan? Do you have tornadic events? Do you have plans for this? It's vigilance. It's not paranoia. So what are crime prevention thoughts? First of all, I'm sorry, churches are rarely designed with security. Most of the times, if you go to classic design churches, you might see 1 door lock and that's it. Security is always an afterthought. Key control and access management. Do you know where every key to your church is right now? They don't, George. Make a note of that. What happens? Well, somebody quit church, but he took a key with him. Have you done a key control access log? Do you know where every key and who has access to your organizational facilities are. A lot of people are going to key control, swipe keys and all like that. Why? Somebody quit church. Okay, we can just plug him out. He can't get in. This is something to consider. Exterior lighting. Whenever times I do a crime prevention survey, I look at the lighting. I know, when you look at lighting, what are you thinking? Lights on, electric bill, more expense. Cut off some lights, George. Look at the type of lighting you're using. Can you use some more energy efficient lighting? Can you make sure your lighting is being adequately maximized? Do you have your trees pruned? Do you have them where they're not being blocked? Lighting is critical and important. Activities. Oh man, we're so good at this. Our activities, we're open to the public, we advertise, and we're predictable. We know we're open on Sundays. But what else? We got websites, Facebook, social media. We advertise it. We've got street signs. We're open this night, this night, and this night. We know every time somebody's open. And like from a prior George's presentation, we leave all the doors open so everybody can come in, but nobody's watching them. We are predictable in letting people know when people are outside so they can break in their cars. We're letting them know when we're here. We're letting them know when we are vulnerable. Your social media and web presence is huge nowadays. It tells everybody, Billy the burglar, when you're open for business. Now, this has nothing to do with the church, or does it? I'll tell you where this comes from. This comes from Norfolk Southern, Harrisburg, their training center. You ever been there to that training? George, I don't know if you probably have. Anyway, some of us in the South Central Task Force, we go there for training. When you go to Norfolk Southern, now just play with me on this and then I'm going to get to the point. When you go to Norfolk Southern Railway, they have it written up there where you're at, in the basement, learning center, street address, everything. Why? Do you know the street address if you had to call in on 911? It's there. Also, too, before they do welcome to the training today, they will tell you the fire extinguishers are located over here and over here. The AED is in the dispatch office. The meeting evacuation area is the parking lot out front where you saw by the big tree. There are no plans today for a fire drill. So if you hear something, whoo, it's real. And finally, where the restrooms are. And then they break it down one step further. For the people who are in there with Norfolk Western, they will say, George, should we have an event today, you're the one to go get the AED and first aid kit. You will go get the first aid kit and also activate the 911 plan. You're going to go out front, wave down the ambulance because we don't have our doors numbered yet, and it will tell them to look for the guy with the beard and the plaid shirt on, waving the ambulance in. They designate team responsibility, and then they say, welcome to Norfolk Western. Here's my question. Right now today in your church, are there activities going on? Probably. Does everybody in that church know who's down there? No. I was doing an assessment in one church one day. I said, who are the people down in the basement? It's either the Scouts or one of our Sunday school groups. Who's in charge? Who has access? How many people there? Are they underage people? Da, 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 da. And they looked at me stupid. I don't know. What can we do? Get a whiteboard. Do you have a board or do you have some methodology of letting your command staff within your church know who is using your facilities every night? And this is simple because you need to know who's cutting off the water, who's cutting off the electricity, who's locking up, who's activating the alarm system. That's what most people are thinking. No, I want to know who has access in there because if something happens in the church, we need to know an accountability of who was there and who the points of contact were. I always say get yourself a whiteboard and just put up there who's using what this week. If they're using the playground or what have you. Recognizing inconsistencies. Now, for those of you, some of you say, oh, I wish I could learn more about this. Real quick, there's two things I'm going to tell you. Number one, if you want to learn more about what your morning's presentations were and inconsistencies, find the book, The Gift of Fear. Great book. It'll make it come to life for you. And the second one, if you're a military or you're a first responder and you want validation of everything you've been doing all your life, read Left to Bang. Anybody ever read that book? Great book. I highly recommend it for all my command staffs. This will let you know about understanding this. You see, we are all the times in life faced with physical and environmental anomalies, which they were talking about earlier this morning. Great presentation. And we always ask two questions. What should be there that isn't? Or what's there that shouldn't be? Now, there's two pictures on the bottom. Number one, I was doing this presentation not long ago, and I had somebody look at me and said they didn't know who Jake and Elwood were. One of the best movies ever. Anyway, Blues Brothers. And then over here is a Boston Terrier. I used to have Boston Terriers. If anybody's ever had a Boston Terrier, this is the look. If you get this look when you come home, just look around, something's happened. Okay. Humans can override intuition and warning signs. We can overlook anomalies. Well, I wanted to eat in this restaurant. I don't care that somebody has chained the exit doors. There's nothing to that, but I just come here for the food. These two guys come into your church asking, well, what time does church begin? Do y'all get a lot of money? Do y'all have cash? But no, we're open. We're good Christian folks. We're going to tell them two guys everything. We need to think about overriding the anomalies of life for our own security. It's nice to be open and friendly, but there are times we have to draw that line for our own personal security and our own operational security. Like I said, remember the terrier. That is how, when you see things, you should look, rather than just saying, oh yes, let me just give you all this information. Physical security survey. People have talked about this. An on-site examination is usually an analysis of your present security status. It identifies deficiencies or excesses. And I can tell you this from doing vulnerability assessments with George, and he does them, that a lot of times we have found excesses where we've had to tell people tone it back and maybe get some balance in other areas. This does occur. Some people become over hip with some things. We got to identify where these deficiencies are, look for what is, good protection. What kind of protection do you really need? And make recommendations to overall improve your security. It's not that hard. That is not a church, that's Fort Knox. Okay. But it's secure. Anyway, a lot of people look at it and say, we got to harden the target. You've heard that word this morning. We got to look at our physical security. There's a couple of ways I always tell people to do this. You don't do it, it's never done once and done. When you start with one of these things, you go outside, inside, bottom to top. You don't go into the minister's office and say, we'll start right here. It should start before you even get into the parking lot, looking at signage, egress, things of its nature. So it's outside, inside, bottom to top. For me to do one comfortably, I will do it 4 times in a year. Winter, summer. Winter, we have no foliage. Summer, we have canopy. Canopy of trees may prevent lighting, may block visibility, may do a lot of different things. Daytime, nighttime. How you look in the daytime is different than the nighttime with the different illumination factors of the moon. So just don't do it on July the 3rd because you're off tomorrow, the 4th, and say I'm done. Daytime, nighttime, winter, summer. You need to look at the seasonal aspects of your external view of this. The goal is to eliminate opportunity. The goal is to send a message that the risk outweigh the rewards, okay? When people talk about target hardening, they talk about locks and key management. I've already talked about that. A few of you have already made notes. I got to find that key and get that key back from that guy that left. Okay, access control. Churches, too, are just like banks. You have public areas, limited access areas, and non-public areas to begin with, the secure areas. You may have certain areas in your church that have layers of security, where it might be the food bank, where you keep some of the holy vestments, where you maybe keep some of the, 10 more minutes left? I can talk fast if I try. All right. Alarms, lighting, television. signage. I'm going to talk to you about septet. I'm going to jump right into that real quick. All right. Septet. Everybody wants to save money. I'm going to do it for you right now. Crime prevention through environmental design. It has been around for years. You just did not know it. For those of you who have gray hair, you have seen it and did not know what it was. Do you remember going to McDonald's in the early 60s? It was bright colors, hard plastic, loud. And remember those seats that came and curved up like this and turned up like that? Hit you right on the sciatic nerve. Why? You ate your one hamburger to help contribute to their 100 billion hamburgers they made, and you got out of there because your legs are going to sleep. That was environmental design. They're turning tables, okay? Crime prevention through environmental design is a composite of all of these. We brought it in from Europe years ago. It's worked well. Access control, we've already talked about that. I'm going to give you a few things here real quick. My grandmother, she had roses planted outside her bedroom windows. Why? Did she like roses? Did she like the aroma? No, you ain't climbing in Grandma's window. What was that? She made defensible space for her. And this is also called territoriality because you're marking it. Me, I think you should use pyracantha. They got bigger stickers, but that's just me. Natural surveillance. Do you create natural surveillance? Real quick, the best way I can tell you was this one. When I was working in another job, we had cars being broken into in a very obscure parking lot. We couldn't figure out what to do. I looked around, said, here's what we're going to do. I moved the smoker's pit out to the back door. Why? Just follow me. Then also, too, I said upstairs where the break room is, take the shades off so everybody has to look out the window. So now, if you went into that parking lot, you never knew when somebody's coming out smoking. You never knew when somebody's in there making a cup of coffee looking out the window. No more entering of autos. Amazing. Natural surveillance works. And that's what I'm saying about people making infrequent walks around or whatever with the church. Formal, organized surveillance. Ushers. Okay, real quick. I know what the ushers do. Ready? Y'all sit outside, you're out in the narthex, and you're talking about the Phillies, you're talking about the ball game, and whatever. You go get the money, you bring it back, you see a $100 bill. Ooh, somebody's trying to buy out of sin. Here we go. I wonder who it is. Look in there real quick. What I need you to do is take turns in doing a walk. See, you know, you're laughing. Anyway, so what I want you to do is take formalized walks through the back hallway, the secure areas. You know where it'll get hit during service? Choir room. Everybody leaves their stuff in the choir room. They leave their pocketbooks and everything in there because they got the robes on, such as that, and that's what's going to get hit if you're going to be interrupted for theft. Okay? You should do organized surveillance, do walk-arounds. Program activities, when you have your activities built around where there's an interchange of people coming and going and everybody knows who's there. This works. This works very, very well. Take a look at it, and there's more tips I can give you. I'm kind of running short. Church security is a balance between physical, electronic, environmental, and procedural, but we need a workable balance. That's the two key words here. TV cameras, make sure you have a policy on this, and also, too, how long do you keep them for your records? Talk to your diocese, talk to your whoever, your attorneys about it, and also, too, who has access control to them to delete them. Protection of assets. One of the most horrific crimes I ever had a chance to go to was where we had some beautiful stained glass windows where kids had thrown rocks and broke out stained glass windows. Very, very expensive. You can put a clear plastic barriers on the outside of these, very similar to what they do on jewelry stores and such as that. You can stand and throw a brick, it ain't going to hurt it. You know, you may want to consider, doing that if you have some very historic windows. Children's playgrounds, look at the fence, sighting, and sight lines to where nobody can hide, nobody can, abduct or whatever. That's some more septet stuff. I got to rocket through this real quick. Securing rare religious items. I was doing one church presentation, I looked at this bench. It was kind of rudimentary. I said, what is this? That is one of the original benches from our church. It's 250 years old. Why do you have it out here? Some fat kid's going to sit on it, and ruin it, This should be secured, or at least have a sash across it. Don't, look, don't sit. Look at what you're doing. Church records. Fire-resistant safe. Look at the fire load on the safe. Okay? I'm not saying go to Walmart and get the little tin thing here that's going to burn up like a crispy critter. No. What I'm saying is look at a fire load of at least 2 hours or better. Valuable and non-replaceable records archives should be photocopied and stored off-site if possible. You're going to get more requests for church records in the future than ever. Here's why. Look on TV. Everybody's doing this DNA swab. Which country did I come from? Heritage.com and all these things, right? People are actually coming back to churches now to find burial records, marriage records, And in most states, church records are accepted form of official documentation for certain type of legal events. Take a strong look at securing this, because if you lose this, you lose a lot of people's, lineage, family. Electronic office equipment, musical instruments. Do you have models and serial numbers recorded? Do you have a photo shot of it? Everybody's got a cell phone. Take pictures of all this stuff. Usually the musical instruments are one of the first things that are taken. Financial management. Okay, this is why I get thrown off the stage. Starts from the offering plate and ends with an audit. Yeah, I said the word audit. I always like it. Cash management should be handled, counted, deposited, reported, and audited. It is a process. Policy to prevent misappropriation. Nobody would steal from God. You have both external and internals. One of the biggest things I will tell you is this: never let nobody take it home. Cash, disposable, non-traceable. Screen all of your money handlers. I mean this. You never know when somebody is backsliding into apostasy. You see, I was only a few hours short of having a religious degree. I still like throwing some words out. Anyway, so if you got anybody backsliding, don't let them be counting your money. Do not forget your vending machine, mission trips, bake sales, love offerings. That's the way it said, and other monies. My old church, we used to have a building fund. Everybody was always donating to the building fund. They ain't never put a new doorknob on that church yet. Where'd that money go? I want to know. I was doing a vulnerability assessment. I had a stoic bunch of church elders told me, said, we know where every piece of money is. I was doing the assessment, went in. Miss Emma, the Sunday school teacher, had a can that she was collecting to go to some foreign country somewhere. And I started rattling, and there was money in it. I said, you know about this, Reverend? He turned and walked off. Do you know? Best strategies: accurate counting, 2+ people, 2 counting, 1 watching, placed in bank bag, kept safe, limited access and audit. One of the biggest things I'm seeing a lot of churches do, and I love it, don't take me wrong on this, some people, is a lot of people are doing direct deposit, a lot of people are doing access cards or program giving. Why? Less chance of money to be taken. It goes straight to the bank, and you also have an accountability on it. PFAs and trespassers. Now, there's a lot of trespassing because it's in the Lord's Prayer. So anyway, but it's a different type of trespassing. And I think it was brought up earlier today about knowing your congregation, where there are PFAs, protection from abuse, child custody battles, domestics, and we have these things called defiant trespassers, people who you've asked to leave, they keep coming back. It's a form letter, you send them on file with your local police, and it also adds up to the seriousness of the case. Marriage counseling awareness. If you are a minister or a ministerial team and you are doing marriage counseling, don't do it by yourself. Have a wingman or a security person or somebody around the corner just in case this thing goes bad. I can tell you of situations where this has turned bad and it's been a struggle. Make sure you have some type of second wave of support for you. Proactive strategies. Do nothing invites criminal opportunity. We know that. It's a blend and balance of both internal policy, procedures, duties, and responsibility. And it's a balance. It's hard to do. I know it is.